Madam Chair, you are now live.
Madam Chair, you're muted.
Thank you very much, Helena. Thank you, Brenda. Good afternoon. I'm Commission Chair Tanya Rodriguez, and I would like to welcome you to the August 18th, 2022 Human Relations Commission virtual meeting. We are coming to you live from the Cherokee homelands, where the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians remain a sovereign nation to this day. We will now call our meeting to order. Duties of the Human Relations Commission of Asheville include, but are not limited to, make policy recommendations to City Council, which promote and improve human relations and advance equity in the city. 2, support the city's Office of Equity and Inclusion. 3, provide a forum where residents can raise issues and complaints relating to human relations in the city. 4, engage the community regarding the utilization of city-funded programs and policies for the promotion of human relations. And 5, promote and improve human relations and advance equity in the following areas: public safety, education, art and cultural opportunities, economic development, health and human services, and housing. All commission members and staff are participating virtually. We appreciate your patience as we temporarily conduct our HRCA meetings remotely. We are streaming live on our virtual engagement hub, which is accessible through the virtual engagement hub link on the front page of the city website and also linked on the commission page. We also have an option for the public to listen live by phone by dialing 855-925-2801. Once again, that number is 855-925-2801 and entering meeting code 9723. For those of you who plan to speak during our live public comment today, you will need to hit *3 to be put in the speaker queue. For those of you out there with us today, welcome. We will now begin our roll call. I will go through and introduce all the commission members, staff, and guests who are participating virtually. For our commission members, please make sure to mute your microphone if you are not speaking. When you have a question or you would like to speak, click raise hand, and when recognized by the chair or Brenda or Elena, please unmute your microphone. Please remember to mute your microphone after you are done speaking. Commission members, as I call your name, please say a quick hello. Chair Tanya Rodriguez, hello. Vice Chair Brandon Oliver, see Commissioner Daniel Young, Commissioner Dolores Venable.
Hello, everybody. I hope everybody's well and doing good, and everything is going good for everybody. It's good to see folks, and glad to be back in the room again.
Commissioner Melanie Noyes.
Hi, President. Thanks for having me.
Commissioner Harold.
Here, glad to be here today.
Commissioner Reed.
I am present. I'm here. Glad to be here.
Commissioner Chandler.
I'm present. Hello, Asheville. Hello, everyone.
Commissioner Smith.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here, present. Thank you.
Commissioner Atkins. Commissioner Atkins is muted.
I should have raised my hand. Hello, everyone. It's wonderful to see you.
And Commissioner Boyd is no. Our City Council Liaison, Kimroni, is not present. And welcome to our city staff members, Elena Schmidt
Good evening, everyone.
and Brenda Mills
Good evening, everyone.
and Brad Brennan.
Good evening.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you very much for being here tonight and being amazing for our commission. Moving on to group agreements to give us a shared understanding of group norms and to ensure everyone participating feels heard and valued in the meeting. We will review the group agreements, which were created based on the boards and commissions ethics policy. The group agreements are as follows. Be civil and courteous. Be respectful of differing opinions. Be present. No personal attacks. The acronym WAIT. Why am I talking? Or why aren't I talking? Pursue the common good. Respect and honor the majority decision. Be fair and impartial with votes and discussion. And finally, adhere to the ethics policy. To help our audience follow along, I'll state each section of the agenda aloud. Again, I ask commission members to click raise hand and to be recognized to speak. Please state your name each time you comment. Just a reminder that the public is listening on the phone, and this keeps everyone up to date on the order of the meeting and who is commenting or speaking. Do we have a quorum? Looks like we do. 1, 2.
We do have quorum.
Yes, that is fabulous. Thank you very much for showing up, everyone, for making quorum tonight. Moving on to approval for minutes for July 21st, 2022 meeting. Can I get a motion for approval of the minutes?
I'll motion to approve the minutes. Commissioner Chandler.
I second.
Wonderful roll call vote. Commissioner Atkins. Do we get a verbal?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Reed.
Yes.
Commissioner Venable.
Yeah.
Commissioner Chandler.
Yes.
Commissioner Harold.
Yes.
Commissioner Noyes.
Yes.
And Chair, yes. Thank you very much. So moved. Minutes are approved. Moving on to staff updates. We do have a few resignations, unfortunately. Elena?
Thank you. Yes, Amanda Brimseth and Ashley Wilberding have resigned from the commission. And I'd like to offer a reminder to our commissioners that if life does happen, we understand. And if you ever find that you can no longer make the meeting attendance, which is 75% of meetings, please just send me an email letting us know your intent to resign, and then we can make that seat available to others who are in a place where they can attend meetings at that meeting requirement. The other staff update that I have is that I wanted to acknowledge that at our last meeting, there was a request for a presentation on how the city handles complaints. And I just wanted to inform commissioners that that is something that's in the works, and we'll be having that presentation at a future Hrca meeting.
Thank you very much. Elena, that is fantastic news. That's absolutely wonderful. Thank you for doing the work on that. Moving on to unfinished business, update on proposed changes to ordinance establishing HRCA, Human Relations Commission, Asheville. Elena.
Thank you. Yes. So if the commissioners remember at the last meeting, the July meeting, you all voted to approve updates to your rules of procedure. Some of those updates were involving the membership and appointment. That is established by the ordinance that established the HRCA. And so changes to that will need to be approved by City Council. So this recommendation is going to the Boards and Commissions Committee on August 23rd. And if they so move, it will then go to City Council for approval to amend the ordinance on September 13th.
Thank you very much, Helena. Are there any questions in regards to that, commissioners? Moving on to new business, it is a great honor to present to you Jean Troy, who's the program manager for the North Carolina Human Relations Commission. This is a state Human Relations Commission, and Jean Troy is a pillar of wisdom and education and experience with human relations here in North Carolina. And it is my honor to present Jean to us, our humble Human Relations Commission here in the city of Asheville, to present to us what a Human Relations Commission does and what it's all about. And thank you very much, Jean, for joining us here today.
Elena, you'll need to give me access to share my screen with your host controls.
How about I go ahead and share and I'll advance slides.
No problem.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jean Troy. I'm the program manager of the North Carolina Human Relations Commission. I was asked by Elena and Brenda to come to your meeting and to talk about the role of a local Human Relations Commission. And so that will be my objective today. And I will also have any questions after the presentation has been done. If you would go forward with the agenda. Today we'll be talking about the creation of local human relations commissions, the types of local human relations commissions, duties and responsibilities of commissions. We'll skip over the role of an executive director because you don't have one, but we will talk about the role of commission members of local human relations commissions. We'll also talk about what local human relations commissions can do. Next slide. Important to do items local human relations commission should do. We'll talk a little bit about what types of issues should local commissions, human relations can deal with. And we'll talk about developing a local human relations commission work plan. And then finally, my role, my office's role with local human relations commissions, because you're not the only commission that we provide a role to. We have just found out this today. We now have a total of 26 local human relations commissions in the state. And in the near future, we'll have another one out of Elizabeth City, Pasquotank County. So that'll be number 27. So you are not the only local human relations commission that is in North Carolina. Next slide, please. Creation of a local human relations commissions. If you go to the next slide. Local human relations commissions are usually done, but not limited to, by one of the following governmental actions. You're either created by an ordinance, by bylaws, by an executive order, by resolutions, and by motions. Concerning the Asheville Human Relations Commission, you were established by an ordinance, a law. by the City Council of Asheville. So therefore, you have been established by the highest type of way that you can be as a commission. So your creation was made by an ordinance by the City Council. And that is a very good thing, because that means it's very, very hard for City Council to get rid of a commission that has an ordinance establishing them. Next slide, please. Types of local human relations commissions. The first type of a local human relations commission is the volunteer commission. You as Asheville Human Relations Commission there are a volunteer commission. The volunteer commission does not have a local human relations department that is within the city or county governmental departments. The volunteer commission members have a direct relationship with the city, county officials. The volunteer commission conducts its own programs, which means that you have ideas of developing some types of programs, events, activities that you want to sponsor in your local community that deal with human relations issues. The volunteer commission may have a staff liaison between the commission and the city council and or the county commissioners. Now, in your situation, you have a staff liaison person who happens to be Elena Schmidt, and Brenda provides a little bit of liaison work as well, but you also have a council liaison. I don't know the name of that person, but you have a city council liaison as well. So you have two liaisons that are connected to you so that they can help you and support you in the efforts and programs and events that you want to do in the local commission, in the local community. Lena has her hand up.
Our city council liaison is Councilwoman Kim Roney.
Okay. So you happen to know who that council person is for you as a council liaison. So that person is connected to you from the city council. The other thing that a volunteer commission may have directives that come from the city council and or county commissioners. In other words, the city council sometimes will come to you and say, we have something that we would like for you to do as a human relations commission. And those types of things are sent to you by the city council. And they would like for you to deal with whatever issue, that directives that they have for you. Not only that, within the ordinance that they have given you, there are duties and responsibilities, which Tanya mentioned earlier, that allows you to be able to do things as a local human relations commission in Asheville. And we'll be talking a little bit more about that later in this presentation. Next slide, please. The second type of local human relations commission is a local human relations commission that has a local human relations department. The local human relations department staff maintains the local human relations commission governmental relationship. The local human relations department staff conducts and produces the local human relations commission's programs, and the local human relations department shall handle day-to-day human relations issues for the city or the county that they represent. And there are only a few of those that have a local human relations department throughout the state of North Carolina. I think the closest one to you is in Charlotte, and it's the Charlotte Mecklenburg Community Relations Department. They are the closest community relations commission that has a staffed department under the city and the county. But there are some others that are throughout the state of North Carolina. But remember, you are considered to be a volunteer commission. You are not considered to be a local human relations commission that has a local human relations department. Next slide, please. Okay, we can skip over this slide and skip over this slide and move to the next one as we talk about the role of the commission members of a local human relations commission. couple of things that commission members can do. They can advise their city council, county board of commissioners on human relations issues affecting their city, town, and or county. In other words, you have recommending power. You advise them on human relations issues that are going on in the city of Asheville. There may be some things that people have told you about, and they may be pretty big issues that are going on in Asheville. And so therefore, sometimes the city council doesn't know that type of an issue is happening. So you as a commission member, you can advise them or let them know, hey, we're getting information about this issue that is affecting human relations in Asheville. And we just want to let you know that we don't want this to get any bigger than what it is right now. So you have advising power to the city council there in Asheville. The commission member serves as a resource to the community. In other words, there may be situations, there may be issues that people have that you may not be able to resolve. However, you have a way of getting information on resources that can be recommended to those people who have issues, whether recommended to going to a nonprofit organization so that they can get help, or whether they recommend to go to a state governmental agency or a state nonprofit organization that deals with issues such as fair housing or deals with other issues that affect the community. You provide as a resource for members in the community of Asheville. And if you don't know, maybe you can reach out to Elena or Brenda to see if they know of some type of organization or agency that could help the community out with those types of issues. And I could tell you, and I already know for a fact, and Brenda and Elena can shake their head, is that they have called me to see if there's any organization that can handle certain situations in the city of Asheville if the city couldn't handle that. So I have a list of organizations and agencies that I send to Alana or Brenda if you have questions as to where those persons can go for some type of issue that can't be handled by the commission. So you are a resource to the community of the people there in Asheville. The commission member ensure that the city council services are implemented fairly to everyone. I think that's very, very clear. And then the commission members may have to provide training on human relations issues to the community. Now, don't freak out when I say that, okay? Don't get crazy. Don't say we can't do it. When we're saying that you may provide training, it's not necessarily saying that you personally, commission members, provide the training. But what you do is you find people who are experts in those issues, in those areas of concern, of dealing with human relations issues that would provide the training for you. You would be the sponsors, and that you would be able to allow them to provide or present the information to community members so that they can be aware and be educated on certain issues that are happening in the community, such as fair housing, affordable housing, voting rights, those types of things, employment discrimination. Those things you can provide training on those types of human relations issues to the community members in Asheville. Next slide, please. What can you do as a local commission? I'm glad you asked me that. First of all, you provide equal opportunity and diversity appreciation programs. You can monitor, study, recommend, resolve local human relations problems. You can monitor, report, deal with local hate crimes or bias activity. And I don't mean investigating them. I'm talking about dealing with community issues on a human relations level. You can become a crisis intervener of a human relations issue for your local community. You can be a trainer for crisis intervention for local human relations issues that may happen in your community. You make an annual report to the governing body concerning your events, activities, and trainings that you have given within the community, to the community, and for the community. These are just some of the things that you can do as a commission. Next slide, please. There are some important to-do items for you as a commission. First of all, schedule Human Relations Commission orientation training, which you're doing tonight. Schedule other commission trainings as needed, such as fair housing training, crisis management response training, hate crimes, hate bias training, and cultural diversity training. And I don't know, Elena, if you gave them out some handouts that we had sent before, but we have a list of training programs from my office that we can provide and conduct for you, to you, in dealing with these issues here: fair housing, crisis management response, hate crimes, and hate bias training. At the present time, we are not doing cultural diversity training because we are in the process of trying to change our format for that. However, but we can do the other trainings. If you ask for those trainings, we can conduct those trainings to you and for you. Become a hate violence information network affiliate. In other words, there we have what you call a Haven affiliate, where we have a list of local human relations commissions, some police departments, some sheriff's departments, some nonprofit organizations, where they have signed on to this network. And basically what it is that is a network of groups and organizations and agencies that report any hate crimes or any hate bias incidences that may happen in your local area to my office. One reason why we collect that information is because we have an executive order from the governor's office to maintain a log of hate crimes and hate bias incidences throughout the state that are reported to us. The second reason is because every now and then, there may be a senator or a representative that puts a bill in the General Assembly to enhance the hate crime statutes in North Carolina. And in those situations, we have to provide a report of any hate crimes or hate bias incidences that have been reported to our office, and we provide that information to the committee that deals with those types of bills that may come through the General Assembly. So we encourage you, if you would be a Haven member, if any hate crimes or hate bias incidents occur, to report that to my office so that we can place it on the annual log. Attend the statewide meetings with the local human relations commissions in North Carolina. Once a quarter, my office, along with a local human relations commission, sponsors and co-sponsors the statewide meeting with local commissions throughout the state. People from all across the state that are in local human relations commissions, as well as local human relations departments, attend those meetings. And at those meetings, what we do is we have a presenter that provides information from an organization that a local human relations commission could collaborate with, and in dealing with some programs or events and activities in your local areas. We also provide information on statewide trends that may be going on, as well as information as far as possibly even proposing a statewide conference in the near future. And we'd like to get input from local human relations commissions as to what types of ideas or topics that you would like to see being dealt with and being presented at the proposed statewide conference. If you have a pen or paper, I can give you the next date. It has already been scheduled. I've already sent a flyer and agenda to Brenda and Elena. And the next date is Tuesday, September 27th. It will be in person in Greenville, North Carolina. And it will be at the Hilton Hotel in Greenville, North Carolina. And you will be able to meet other persons of local human relations commissions, as well as other persons in local human relations departments that will be attending the statewide meeting. If you are interested in coming, please send an RSVP email to me. And Elena and Brenda have my email address. And also within the email that I've sent, there is some hotel information if you want to stay over the night. The City of Greenville Human Relations Commission has blocked off at least 10 rooms for people to stay overnight on Monday night in order to be able to be there Tuesday night. I know that's a long hump from Asheville. It's over 6 hours, but it would be, if you want to come on Monday night to stay over, they will have rooms hopefully available so that you can spend the night on Monday night to attend the Tuesday morning meeting. It's from 9 o'clock to 12:45, and I'll hopefully you'll be able to attend. The next thing that you should do is develop and implement a local human relations work plan. Every commission has to develop a work plan and then work that plan. In other words, take action steps to work towards getting that plan done in your local area. Okay? It is very important that the commission, first of all, develop a plan. And then after you develop the plan, you got to go ahead and take action steps to make sure that that plan is being worked. And if you work that plan, you will be able to show that you have helped out persons in the community, and that the community will start coming to those things that you plan. But you have to make sure that you work that plan. In other words, you need to take action steps as to whatever you have developed in that plan. Whatever action steps that's needed, you should do those action steps. And from what I understand from Brenda and Alana, I think there is a work plan already in place. And since you have a work plan, please make sure that you take the necessary action steps to work that plan so that you can be very, very successful as a local human relations commission in the city of Asheville. Next slide, please. Create positive interagency relationships. In other words, reach out to other agencies and let them know that there is a local human relations commission in Asheville, and ask them what kinds of things that they would like to see done in Asheville when it comes to human relations issues. You want to be able to find other agencies, other organizations that may have the same ideas you have and would be willing to co-partner or collaborate with you for any types of programs and events on those ideas that both of you have. And so make sure that you create positive interagency relationships. Reach out to all communities. Touch base with all communities in the city of Asheville. Reach important understandings with groups. Let them know that you don't have the power to enforce fair housing. You don't have the power to enforce employment discrimination or fair housing discrimination, but you know where they can be sent in order for them to investigate those types of discrimination issues. My office we enforce the State Fair Housing Act. So you already know that if someone has a fair housing discrimination claim, that they could send it here to see whether we can investigate it and see if it has been a violation or not a violation of the State Fair Housing Act. Understand the community's history and present perceptions in the community. In other words, you need to get an idea as to what are the current human relations issues that are going on in the city of Asheville. I always recommend this to all local human relations commissions. What you may want to do is send out a survey to all types of people throughout the city of Asheville, to all different organizations, to city agencies, to faith-based communities, to community groups, to even Grandma Betty on the corner. You want to be able to send those surveys out so that you can get a pulse as to what are the current human relations issues in Asheville. And then once you do the survey, you tally everything up and try to see if you have recommendations so that you can present those to the city council to see if some of those things those recommendations can be enacted by the city council. Next slide, please. Those are a lot of the things that you can do as a local human relations commission. Now, I hope that everybody has a copy of the duties, responsibilities of the Asheville Human Relations Commission, because I do want to touch base on some of these duties and responsibilities that you have. On the ordinance that I have a copy of, it says, and Tanya mentions this, she mentioned it at the beginning of the meeting. 1, make policy recommendations to the Asheville City Council which promote and improve human relations and advance equity in the city. Support the City Office of Equity and Inclusion in its duties and responsibilities. And provide a forum where residents can raise and bring up to the HRCA's attention issues and complaints relating to human relations issues in the city. Engage the community and gather community input regarding the utilization of city funded programs and policies for the promotion of human relations. And then she had a number of those duties where it said promote and improve human relations and advance equity and public safety and educational, art and cultural opportunities in economic development in the city, equity and health and human services in the city, and housing in the city. Those are your duties. Those are the things that allows you to be able to do things under those duties so that you can educate and let people know in the community that you live in, what things can be done to improve and advance human relations in the city of Asheville. And so you do have some duties and responsibilities that can be very beneficial for the city as well as for the citizens of the city of Asheville. Next slide, please. What types of issues should the local human relations commission deal with or can deal with? Next slide. There is a list of old issues, new issues, and constant issues. But before I talk about the issues, there's a statement that I always present to local commissions in the fact that if you read here, it says, I don't have to read it, but what it's basically is saying that in North Carolina, there's a growing population of people of different races, of different national origins, and different ethnicities that are coming in North Carolina or birthed in North Carolina. And because of that, there are growing concerns of old, constant, and new human relations issues that have not been dealt with and emerging issues that are on the horizon. And with you as a commission, you can be that organization that can deal with or make recommendations to those old, current, and emerging issues that are affecting the local community of Asheville. Next slide, please. keep pushing the button.
Really quick, Mr. Troy, do we want to take questions as they come up or wait till the end of the presentation?
We can, if some people have questions, like we can go now. I don't have to really talk about the issues, but if you have any, do you have any questions right now? I think Tanya has one.
Yeah, hi, Mr. Troy. In the slide before with the issues that, yes, this one. It says, due to the growing population by all races, national origins, ethnicity coming birthed in North Carolina, there are growing concerns of old human relations issues and constant human relations issues that have not been dealt with, and emerging human relations issues that are on the beginning over the horizon. There's a new one coming up that I wanted to bring awareness to, and it's happening. It's called CAST, and it's happening with South Asian population, where people are being discriminated by caste in South Asian populations in this country. And it's growing as the South Asian population in this country grows. So I just wanted to bring that in as an example of emerging human relations issue, because we don't have a caste system like South Asia does. Yet when people are in community of South Asians, oftentimes those continue over into our communities and our workplaces, and people are finding that they're being discriminated against in their workplaces due to caste. So I thought that that was just a really good living example of what's emerging, and felt that it was important to bring into the greater collective and awareness. Thank you.
Thank you for that information. Any other questions from anyone? Okay. The old human relations issues are probably very familiar with everyone. If you just keep pushing, and you'll see the list. Okay, stop right there. Go back. Yeah. As you can see, all the old human relations issues everyone is familiar with all of the old human relations issues that are going on, are still constantly going on. So if you go to the next slide, please. These are the constant human relations issues that are continuously going on right now, and that are really getting a lot of headway and a lot of publicity that is going on, not only just in North Carolina, but throughout the nation. Next slide, please.
Mr. Troy, without taking up too much time, could we quickly read these off for listeners who are not able to view the slides?
Sure. For old human relations issues, separate with equal laws, voters' rights discrimination, hate groups, fair housing discrimination, public accommodations discrimination, employment discrimination, and racial ethnic profiling. For constant human relations issues, housing, employment, and public accommodation discrimination, rise in hate groups, voters' rights discrimination, handicap accessibility discrimination, biased disciplinary action in schools, racial ethnic profiling by local law enforcement. And then emerging human relations issues are immigration issues and reform, rise in religious intolerance discrimination, economic job issues, which deals sometimes with workplace violence, racial ethnic profiling by law enforcement, sexual orientation, gender identity discrimination, health disparities by race and ethnicity. And then there's is not one listed, but I do want to point this one out, and is dealing with fair housing discrimination based on ex-offenders when they apply in housing decisions. There's a lot of discrimination like that is going on right now. If an organization such as a local human relations commission that can do things towards improving with the old constant and emerging human relations issues in your local communities, the following things can happen to help your local communities progress. The commission can create a forum or forums where groups can come on a regular basis and assess the state of intergroup relations and identify needs for action. The commission can request and develop continuous source of financial support for programs to support cross-cultural sensitivity and positive intergroup relations. The commission can have programs of recognition, support, training from cross-cultural bridge builders. And the commission can continue searching for best practices in cross-group relationship building and a commitment to continuous improvement in this area. Those are things that have been proven over and over again when there is a local human relations commission that is working their work plan to deal with human relations issues. If you are not doing the work plan to improve human relations in your local area, you're not taking the action steps, then you won't see anything change. Next slide. Does anyone have a question before I go into developing a local human relations commission work plan? Okay. These are the steps that I recommend to local commissions when it comes to developing a local human relations commission work plan. The first thing is to develop a local human relations commission work plan. You got to schedule a local retreat. You got to have a retreat as a local human relations commission. The retreat needs to be at least 3 hours to be able to iron out any issues concerning what is discussed. After that, list all human relations issues that are affecting your local area that have been discussed at the retreat. And then once that is done, out of the total list, choose the top 3 to 4 human relations issues that you, as a local human relations commission, agree upon to focus on and deal with as a group. And then once the top human relations issues are chosen, develop a plan of action for you to take on the chosen human relations issues. I recommend this to all local human relations commissions so that so all of them can have a work plan and that all of them can go ahead and do the action steps that is necessary in order to work that plan. And from what I understand, like I said earlier, the commission has already developed the work plan for the year. And hopefully all of you have a copy of that work plan, and hopefully that you are in the process of making sure first of all, what are the action steps that are needed in order to accomplish whatever is on the work plan, and that you are following through with those action steps so that you can be able to make those reports at the commission meetings, but also make progress in maybe having any kinds of programs or events or activities that you may have to have in the community of Asheville, in the different communities in Asheville. Next slide, please. Keep pushing it, Atlanta. There's a lot of lists. One more. There you go. After you decide as a group on what human relations issues you want to deal with, develop the necessary subcommittees to move the plan of action forward. And these are just some lists of some subcommittees that have been done in the past for other local commissions. And so I just indicated them on this list. Some of the subcommittee titles are Housing Subcommittee, Education Subcommittee, Hate Crimes, Hate Bias Subcommittee, Community Relations Subcommittee, Police Community Relations Subcommittee, Economic Development Subcommittee, Public Accommodations Subcommittee. You may have some others like a Senior Citizen Subcommittee or Youth Subcommittee or Youth Issues and Involvement Subcommittee or Homeless Subcommittee. As long as you, whatever those 3 or 4 human relations issues are the top ones, develop subcommittees for them. Okay? After you develop the subcommittees, go ahead and next slide. When you develop them, all the local, this is a very important point that I want to make. And please take this in. When you develop your subcommittees, all of the local Human Relations Commission members do not need to be on all of the subcommittees. If you do, you're going to break your neck and you're going to have a problem. You're going to run yourself ragged if you do that. When you develop your subcommittees, you can have persons in the community on the subcommittees that have experience in or either work in the fields to help you deal with the human relations issues locally. In other words, there are certain commission members that want to be on certain committees. Be on those committees. However, whatever the field is that you're on for the subcommittee that you're on, you want to have experts in that field to help you and be on the subcommittee to help you out in dealing with those issues. For example, a banker, realtor, broker, developer can be a committee member of the Fair Housing Subcommittee. A principal, teacher, school board member, a superintendent, a counselor can be a committee member of the Education Subcommittee. A pastor, a community leader, a business owner, a director of a nonprofit organization, an administrative staff member with police and sheriff's offices can be members of the Community Relations Subcommittee. They're not going to run the committee because the committees, those subcommittees will have members of the Asheville Human Relations Commission on them, but they will be on there to help those Asheville Commission members out in whatever area that you're dealing with as a subcommittee. The other part of this is that you're also involving the community in your work and in your action plan, action steps in your work plan to improve human relations in Asheville. You're involving people from the community so that they can help other people in the community to improve human relations in the community. Then after you develop the subcommittees for the Local Human Relations Commission, which are based on the top human relations issues that have been identified at the retreat, you as a local human relations commission will need to have some short-term objectives and some long-term objectives to help you plan for the action steps needed in order to deal with the identified human relations issues affecting your local area. Next slide. These are questions that you can use for your short-term objectives. What gains progress in local human relations can we celebrate? What local human relations issues currently need attention? And what challenges in local human relations await us? These are just questions that you can use to develop your short-term objectives. Next slide. Questions you may want to ask concerning long-term objectives. What can become a problem in the future? What steps need to be taken now? And how will doing nothing now affect our community? You may even want to break it down. 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. These are questions that you could use for your long-term objectives. Any questions on developing a work plan for Human Relations Commission? Like I said earlier, Brenda and Elena have already told me that you have a work plan already. It's very important that you know what that work plan is. It's very important to know which subcommittee you want to be on and serve on. And it's very, very important that you as persons that are on those subcommittees take action steps so that you can move that work plan along forward to improve human relations in your local community. Any questions? Okay, this is the last part, and then I have some questions. You can ask questions after this. What is my office's role in dealing with local human relations commissions? 4 things that we offer. One is we provide training for you. Just like I said earlier, we have training programs for local human relations commissions, fair housing, orientation training, crisis intervention training, hate crimes training. We can conduct those trainings for you if you want those trainings. We would just have to get them scheduled, and we can conduct those trainings for you, to you. The second thing is we provide a crisis intervention type assistance, and the fact that if there is a local human relations issue that happens in Asheville and you need help with certain things on how to deal with it, then you can contact me in this office, and we can provide you with information and provide you with some suggested steps as to what a commission can do during a local human relations crisis. The third thing is that we can provide technical assistance. In other words, I said that earlier, that you may have someone that comes to you and they have an issue, but you know that you as a commission can't handle it. And you want to see if you can find an organization, state agency, a city agency, a county agency, or a nonprofit organization that might be able to handle or deal with the issue that person brings to you. If Brenda and Elena don't know, they can contact me, and I might be able to provide them with a source or resource that can be given to that person so that they can contact whatever that resource is for them in dealing with their issue. And the last thing is we provide hate crime bias tracking. In other words, sometimes we get information on hate crime incidents or hate bias incidents that may happen locally, and we may call your local area just to find out what is going on in dealing with that hate crime or hate bias incident. The other way is, just like I said earlier, involving the Hate Haven network, where if there is a hate crime or a hate bias incident that occurs in your local area, that you make sure that you report that incident to my office so that I can put that down on the log, but also make sure that if I get any questions from persons higher up, I would have information to be able to provide to them as to what is going on with that hate crime or hate bias incident in your local area. Those are the things that is our role as far as with your local Human Relations Commission. That is the role of the North Carolina Human Relations Commission, our technical role with you as the Asheville Human Relations Commission. That's the end of my presentation. Do anybody have any questions of me concerning what your role is as a commission and as a commission member?
Commissioner Chandler raised their hand.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Troy. I appreciate your help with some of the questions that I sent you previously for this meeting as well. My question for you is of the support that your office does for local commissions, how would we book a training or request support from you for our group?
Basically, if the commission would like to have a certain training, let Alana and Brenda know. And then what we would do is try to find a date that that I'm available to be able to do the training. And then we would definitely, on that date, provide the training for you. And so if you as a group, the commission, the whole commission, if you want any type of training that is listed on the training programs that we set, you can do that through Elena and Brenda.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yes. It says
Commissioner Atkins?
Yeah.
So,
Yes, I would like to ask a question about the working plan. My question is as far as the subgroups, is the action plan reviewed and can you update that plan annually, or is there a certain time period in which you are required to update your action plan goals and objectives?
Yes, that's a good question, Ms. Atkins. You definitely can update it, but you want to give it a year to see what you've done. But if you get to that year and you realize you haven't done, enough, then you may want to continue doing that, or you may want to add certain things to that plan. Or you may want to take some things off the plan and say, okay, let's not do with this, let's deal with this. So, but you want to have a retreat to discuss that at the end of the year. But you want to be able to move forward right now with your plan because that's already in place, and you want to move forward with that. And then once that year is up, see where you are and see, have we done things for this? Okay, that's cool. Have we done things for this? Maybe not. So let's see what we need to do, or let's just take that off and add something totally different. Yes, you can update it. Any other questions?
I have a question, Mr. Troy. Within regards to the Hate Violence Info Network, do we affiliate as individuals or as a group?
As a group. And what I mean by that, if it's a group, then that means every member on the group would be considered as an affiliate, which means that they could send it in through Elena and Brenda. If anyone on your commission finds or has information about, if you see it on the news and you heard about it, maybe you want to go online and get the link and send it to me. But it would be as a commission.
And does that include excessive force within public safety?
Not necessarily, because hate crimes are kind of defined, and that's why we do hate crimes trainings, to let it know, to indicate what kinds of things are considered under the Department of Justice's definition, the U.S. Department of Justice of the Department of Justice's definition of what a hate crime is.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yes, ma'am. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
I had a question from the slides. What is the benefit of a fair housing training for a local HRC if the state HRC handles housing complaints?
The benefit of having the training is for persons to have knowledge that, first of all, they have the right to file a fair housing complaint. If people in the local commissions in local areas have the knowledge to know that they could file a fair housing complaint, that would be great, because there are some people who are being discriminated, but they don't even know that they can file a fair housing discrimination complaint, and where to go and how to do it. And so that is the benefit of having fair housing training, is to make them aware of what the law says, what it doesn't say, and some of the trends that are going on in the state concerning fair housing, and what kinds of steps that they may can take if they want to file a fair housing complaint. So that's the benefit. You're educating the community on fair housing. Any
Well,
other?
I do, oh, pardon me, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, any other questions?
I do believe that is a really wonderful segue into our next item, which I'm so upset because I want to hear more of you and your wisdom about HRCs. I never tire of it, and I look forward to taking as many trainings as possible with you upcoming. When's the next training coming up, or are they individually requested?
They're individual requests. As a matter of fact, last month was a busy month because I did hate crimes training in the city of Lexington. I did orientation training for the Orange County Human Rights and Relations Commission. So I did some trainings last month. Had about 4 or 5 different trainings for 4 or 5 different commissions, and so y'all as a commission can contact me through Lena or Brenda, and try to see which ones you like to be scheduled, and we would be willing to do that.
And how long are the trainings typically?
It depends on them. Some can be 2 hours, some can be 2.5 hours. I can tell you the crisis management is almost 3 hours crisis response because it talks about different issues, and you also have exercises as a group to work on. So that one's a little bit longer, but most of them are around 2 hours to 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Troy. Elena or Commissioner Chandler? I don't know who went up first.
Elena had hers first.
Elena, okay.
I was just going to say that I will be sure to collect the information on these training programs from Mr. Troy, and I will pass these along to the commission to review.
Thank you, Elena. Commissioner Chandler?
I was going to ask, how does the Asheville HRCA get in the queue to host the quarterly state meeting?
Oh, like I said, today I just sent, as a matter of fact, about close to an hour and a half ago, I sent a flyer and the agenda to Alana and to Brenda, and hopefully they can forward that to you, and then you will see what the agenda is. I hope you come because there's some powerful stuff that's going on at the statewide meeting this time, and I would love if you be there so that you could be a part of it, and also. I'll just go ahead and just tell you the first presentation is going to be we will have 2 presenters from the North Carolina Community Action Group Action Association, and they're going to talk about what they do and how many local community action groups are throughout the state and how local commissions can collaborate with some of their efforts that they have going on over there. And then the second presentation will be an interactive session between the facilitators and the people who attend to suggest ideas and topics for the proposed statewide conference that is being planned for next year. They are planning for a human relations civil rights statewide conference to happen next year, and they're wanting any and all ideas on topics of what can be presented at that conference, and so it would be imperative that we get that information from persons such as yourselves as to what some of the ideas and topics are that we could make sure will be at that statewide conference. And so that's what's going to happen at the statewide meeting. You're going to also meet people from all across the state of other local human relations commissions and other local human relations departments, staff people that will be there. A total, I think Alana and Brenda have been on the interactive ones we've had over the last 2 years. and we've had an average of close to 65 people from all across the state to attend those statewide meetings. However, we decided to go ahead and have an in-person one since the numbers are low, and that it's been over 2 years since we've had an in-person meeting, and it's just great that we would try to get together in person to be able to do this meeting in September.
That is really amazing, sounding, especially the community action committees. I was curious about how Asheville could get in the queue to host one of those meetings down the road.
Tanya approached me earlier.
Already in the works. Okay.
Well, she approached me a while back, but at that particular time, she said that was not. I told her that at that particular time, it was a little too much for you as a commission. However, if you are interested, please send me an email, and we can discuss it. What we try to do is we try to rotate from east to west. Because, and of course, we try to go west during the spring because of the cold weather that's up there. So if you as a commission are interested in doing that, then you can send an email, and then what we would do is consider it and have further discussions with Tanya, with Alana, and with Brenda to see if it's possible or not.
Yeah, let's do it, Susie.
Thank you.
Commissioner Harold.
Yes. Good evening, everybody. I understand everything that we've been going over, and the personal effect of getting things done has not entered into anything that has been talked about. Because as far as putting people together, I'm going to put 3 people over here, 4 people over here. Y'all might want to be in this group. Y'all might want to be in that group. It's not saying it's going to work. As far as, what I'm trying to say is when things don't necessarily work within, say, the group, where do we go from there? And then another thing, as far as having people on a group, does it help for them to go to, say, different functions in the city and get to know one another better and then come up with better ideas that way? So that way they're getting a chance to know each other and necessarily formulate better ideas. Well,
first of all, I'm a little bit, I don't know how to answer the first part that you were saying. How, if it doesn't work, what are you talking about? What is it that doesn't work?
Well, everybody doesn't necessarily, like everybody doesn't think alike. We're not all the same, but when you come to a dead still, you're not getting anywhere.
Okay. Let me share this with you, all of you that are local human relations commission members. One of the things that your duties and responsibilities says is that, for example, when you have recommendations sometimes that you want to present to the city council, and you present that information to the city council, you got to realize that it is your job, your duty to do that. Now, if the city council says thank you very much and they don't do anything to move it forward, then you as a commission have to understand that you as a commission have done what you're supposed to do. Okay? Because it says that you make the recommendation to them so that they can consider that recommendation, and hopefully they will move forward with your recommendation to improve human relations. Now, the other part of this is this. Say people in the community had come to you and say, well, we'd like to have that recommendation, and you've already made the recommendation. You can come back and say, well, on such and such date, we made that recommendation to the city council. However, they are the ones that did not approve that city council, that recommendation that we made. The other thing is this: there's power in numbers. So whenever you make a recommendation to the city council, it is imperative that you get in contact with community members, community activists, nonprofit organizations, and even city agencies that would be in support of your recommendations that you make to the city council. And when you do make the policy or recommendation to the city council, invite them to come to that meeting when you make that recommendation, so that you can show the city council that it's not just coming from you, but it's also a representation from the local community as a whole. And so there are ways of getting the recommendation made, and there are also ways of making sure that the city council understands that your recommendations are not just coming from you, but they're coming on behalf of the people in the community that you live in.
Thank you very much.
And I'm gonna come at that in a different way later on in this, during our discussion this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Venable has their hand raised.
You're muted.
Hey, thank you. I'm so sorry. Hi, Mr. Troy. Thank you so much for coming to our board. Thank you, everybody, for your comments. This is Dolores Venable, by the way. I have a question, and this is something that has kind of been an issue within our own board. And I wanted to ask how your organization works in order to create this type of discussion too. So when you have something that's going to be recommended to city council, do you think, or any entity or anybody that you are representing, conflation of issues? So do you think it's best to break things up to where it's one tier, this tier, and that tier? Or is it better in order to group everything together when you send recommendations to a political entity? Because it makes it kind of hard to vote on certain things sometimes when issues are very layered and they're all put into one instead of having separate votes. Because we have a vote tonight that we're supposed to take, and maybe we will and maybe we won't. But I think that's been some of the issues that we've been dealing with here, that we have everything put into one recommendation. So how do you deal with one recommendation that is very layered or has a lot of components to it, and it's all grouped into one recommendation instead of separate votes? That's my question.
Wow, that's a heavy question. It just depends on the issue. If it's an issue that has layers, then you may want to break those layers down. Okay. The thing that we recommend to a lot of commissions is that if it's just one simple type of recommendation, then you go with that. But if it's layered, we always recommend to try to break down that recommendation to its simplest form, because you don't want to overburden the city council with layers, because if it's layers, they may not want to consider moving forward with that recommendation. However, if you break that recommendation down to its simplest form, then it may be a little bit better accepted. There's not really a true formula to that, but what I have done is recommended that to other commissions, and other commissions have done that, and that they have seemed to have gotten a little bit further with their recommendations than just putting everything all together that is a layered type recommendation. I hope that answers your question.
It does a little bit, because sometimes you need a kind of conscious judgment. And when you're trying to vote on something as far as a board yourself, as a board member,
Mm-hmm.
and when you have layered issues, it's kind of hard to vote in order to be able to send something. Or, does that make sense?
It does. It does. For example, affordable housing. Affordable housing has many, 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 many layers. And you just can't just put everything when it comes to affordable housing. There's all types of things that are involved with that. And so if you make any type of recommendation towards that, then you might want to break it down to its simplest form, because there's so many layers to it. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. It really did. Because, as you said, you have to talk to people in the community. And then when you see things, and it's hard to make a decision based on something very round when it doesn't fit into square pegs. So you don't want to be the adversarial person, and you don't want to always be the problem maker or the no, but you also want to make sure that you're making the best decisions for everybody included, and also have a very discrete, or better yet, a concrete platform that you're using to be able to have a vote. So that does help a lot. Thank you, Mr. Troy.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Well, if not, I appreciate the time, and I appreciate you, all of you. And I just want to encourage all of you to move forward with your work plan, so that you can be a benefit to your local community there in Asheville. I'm hoping that I'll see some of you at the statewide meeting in September. And like I said earlier, if you want the information, make sure you get in contact with Alana or Brenda about that. But also, if you as a commission want one of the trainings that are indicated on the training program, then let them know, and then they will get in contact with me, and we can see if we can schedule something later down the road for one of those training programs that you want me to conduct. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Troy. It's always a joy to be in the presence of greatness that you are. Thank you. Thank you for being here and sharing your experience with us today, and educating us on how to be a better, more effective commission. Much appreciated. Moving on to our next item up for business. We do have our key actions, our working plan that we created in the retreat. I don't know if you want to pull that up, Elena. And each of these key actions in the line above in different columns, there are different key actions, and each of those have members of our commission who have volunteered to participate in each of these key actions. And so there's intergovernment relations, there's community engagement, there's addressing housing issues, there's examining systems, and there's improving Hrca. So we're going to have a quick review of the Hrc work plan and committees, and update any if need be. I did notice that under community engagement and improving Hrca, there is start a youth human relations council. And so maybe we keep that in community engagement, or improving Hrca. And so that would be something that we can look at to update our Hrca work plan, and also invite the opportunity to have people volunteer that are new to the Hrca to these different key actions, also known as the work plan, that we're exploring for the next year. When around would be our next retreat?
Did you ask when the next retreat for the Hrca would be?
Correct.
I believe it's an annual retreat. No, okay. Could you respond to that, please, Brenda?
You need to start working on these. Mr. Troy just mentioned that. You need to work on these, evaluate where you are. If you feel like you need to move forward, then we can set something up. But these have not started work as far as I know. Some of them have, some of them have not.
Right. I was asking for a timeline so that we can.
Well, you'll be a year December.
It'll be a year in December. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
So we've got about a year, so a few months to initiate or put into action any of these visions, essentially, for the Hrca. So, Commissioner Venable?
Hi, I was just wondering if any of these actions would involve city council having to change, or us having to change our bylaws, or what? Because I saw the part with youth, and I don't remember correctly, but I don't know if youth were involved in our city as far as our board appointments. And when you say youth, what age group is that?
We had a whole conversation about this in the retreat.
I did remember that, but at the same time, what I'm wondering is if that is within our bylaws as far as our board is set up.
I don't know if a working group vision would be relating to the bylaws, because then that would put everything in the key actions under the realm of the bylaws, which would kind of prevent any actual thing from happening. So, Brenda?
Let me just add that this overview is not to dig into the plan, but to just go over what you said you would do. And then the next meeting, begin to explore each one of these, so that you take next meeting to talk about community engagement or several of the topics up under here. As far as a youth group, you can have a working group. The age will be 18 to 25, because you have to have people who are old enough to drive and to give consent. So we talked about that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was my question, to make sure that we're all on board, that we have a certain age group, because, sometimes folks, when we say certain things, it doesn't actually have the same connotation as it does within. So that's what I was asking, basically. Maybe I did not frame that question in the right manner, but that was the question I was asking, like what the age criteria, so we can say it out loud. So in case people do have people who want to engage in that, they can. That was all. Thank you.
Commissioner Atkins?
My question is, as far as I heard Brenda say that these are new action plans for this year. And my thing is how often do the subcommittees for these action plans meet? Like I said, I'm on the community engagement subgroup or action plan, but I'd like to know who initiates getting our individual meetings together so that we can develop a game plan to address the issues that fall under the community engagement tab. Does that make sense?
So I believe Commissioner Harrell was trying to get everybody together with the community engagement group and has been trying to get everybody together for the community engagement group. But, you know, everybody's got lives and stuff, but he's trying and doing the best that he can to get everybody together. Commissioner Harrell?
On the community engagement, Alma is on ours, on that committee. One thing I was wanting to ask, I think you took him off, Ivan. He's the one that's gone. The rest of us, we should be able to meet.
Do you have a specific date and time? Have you already set up your meeting dates and things like that?
Well, we can take that to email.
Okay.
Yeah, we can take that to email
Understood.
and then
Exactly.
meet in that way.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Councilwoman Rooney?
Yeah, this is just a note from my experience serving on the transit committee back in the day with Harvey, is that in addition to having autonomy as the work group to break out on your own time, I have had some experience getting off email and using a different form. Some folks, just a phone call works better. So having a phone tree, for some folks, text is best. So if you're having difficulty getting your work group together, I definitely encourage folks to try a different form of communication to find what works best for the group.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Commissioner Atkins? Commissioner Atkins, your hand is raised.
Do you hear me?
It's like Commissioner. Yes, there you are.
Okay. I'm saying that I would like to make sure that Commissioner Harvey has my correct email address so that we can connect back and forth. Do you have that, Commissioner Harvey?
I'll get that information from Brenda.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're muted, Tanya.
All right, you're up.
I just wanted to remind the commission that I'm your staff liaison, and I'm happy to connect commissioners to each other. I have your emails, and I think I have some numbers for each of you, but I'll stick with email until you tell me otherwise, to connect the two of you, or to connect the groups together.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Helena. So for the intergovernment relations, there's an action item or key action for recommending an environmental equity report for the city of Asheville. We choose company and handle process. An environmental equity report is a thorough review of all department policy that have outcomes that are not based in equity, as per the executive order on advancing racial equity given by President Biden. Another action, a key action, is building relationships with city and county members. Encourage City of Asheville budget transparency. Incorporate expertise of community leaders into entities or quarterly public listening training seminars for City of Asheville in public. $1 space to YMI and other entities as Black Wall Street and Grind. Ongoing City of Asheville department updates and hold accountable in progress. For community engagement, the key actions are to create and collect community surveys, HRC info booth at every community event, HRCA resource guide with all community resources in one place, start a youth council, HRC equity award ceremony for the city of Asheville, or offer an HRCA award for the MLK breakfast. Also host HRCA classes, housing, employment leadership, and gender identity issues, and establish foster relationship with the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians. For addressing housing issues for our key actions, eliminate the camping ban and advocate for low barriers to shelter, protect and provide housing shelter for houseless community, and examining houselessness and housing supply, affordable housing, in order to influence affordable housing policy. This category already has a housing subcommittee. In examining systems, there's system education and dismantling discipline disparities, help change our city charter to get our housing authority elected and not appointed. That's at the state level, examining the wage gap with a focus on economic opportunities, and imagine other forms of public safety. And for improving the HRC, in-person hybrid HRC meetings, another start the youth council, and reparations, learning how to collaborate. So with that, moving on to our new business regarding recommendation to add a source of income to city's non-discrimination ordinance, HRCA Committee for Addressing Housing Issues. Susie, you've got the mic. Commissioner Chandler.
Thank you, Chairwoman Rodriguez. And I am cognizant of the time and trying to work through this. Please let me know if anyone has any questions. And thank you, Elena, for sharing this recommendation from the beginning, ahead of the meeting. And to address Brenda's question in our last meeting about did we have a source of income protection at the state level? I did check with Mr. Troy, and he let me know that source of income is not listed as a protected class in North Carolina or other local jurisdictions. However, Charlotte has just passed, the city of Charlotte has just added to their NDO, their non-discrimination ordination, or they've added source of income as a protected class. So that is one city that has kicked off starting to protect source of income. And Jean went on to talk about how the General Assembly has not passed an NDO so there's nothing at the state that's already covering this. There is one example city that we have. And when it comes to source of income as it pertains to housing, what we're seeing from our community members is that people aren't able to get housing because they have child support or unemployment income that they're reporting and things like that. And so with this recommendation, we're asking the city council to set up a vehicle to basically, allow people who have vouchers or what have you to be able to use that for payment without discrimination for housing. And along those lines, if they do feel like they're discriminated against, to be able to file a complaint because we have no vehicle for it. As a person in the queer community, I know for a long time it was challenging to describe to people that I could be fired for being gay just because, because it wasn't a particular status. Now it is, so that my job is protected for that. But if I were someone who were paying for my rent through a voucher or alimony or child support or something like that, I could lose my housing because of those, because it's not a protected status. So along those lines, the housing work group drafted and redrafted a very broad request from the city council. If you haven't had a chance to read it, I'll go ahead and read it. It's quite short and it's quite broad, intentionally because we trust the city council to figure out the nuts and bolts of it, but just to bring awareness to this issue and put forward the request for. Oh, look. It's right there. The members of the HRCA acknowledge that housing is being developed that is unaffordable to our residents who are looking for housing. And we're aware that Asheville residents with subsidies, including vouchers, who are unable to find housing or are prevented from attaining access to existing housing because of how they pay their rent, their source of income. Because of the affordable housing crisis and ongoing housing disparities in our city, we recommend that the Asheville City Council direct staff to pursue the addition of source of income and funds to our city's robust non-discrimination ordinance. We recommend the Asheville City Council direct staff to create a path to receive complaints. We request the additional protection be to the maximum allowed enforcement, not to supersede state or federal law. So that's the reasoning and the why behind we're putting forth this recommendation, just to make a small move towards making affordable housing affordable to more people, and asking City Council to help out. And I would love to take questions if anybody has ideas or discussion around this recommendation before we take a vote.
Commissioner Venable?
Hi, yes. So this goes back to something I was already saying. Do you feel that this is two conflated issues at once? That you're putting forth a recommendation that deals with two separate issues at one time? Because it makes it very hard to vote on something when you want to say yes to one part and no to another. So that's what I'm asking. Are we conflating issues with one another? And we're putting one issue to one thing, and we're asking City Council, based upon our recommendation because what we're doing is asking our board to vote on something based on a recommendation that, for me personally, does have conflated issues. And it's very hard for me to vote yes on one thing and no to another. And so I would like to see these issues maybe, and I probably will make a recommendation to the board, but I do feel that these two components are conflatable. And I don't think, because one is the budget and one is a complaint. So can you kind of talk about where these two come in line at?
Well, I'm not really understanding I think you're saying conflicting issues. Like,
no,
if you can.
I mean conflating. They're
okay.
conflating.
I'm not familiar
with another. So what I mean is this. So when we're talking about budget, so we're talking about money, right? So we're talking about making money to one thing, but the money that you're asking for is kind of like saying, I want your money, but I also want to kill you at the same time. Does that make sense?
We're not requesting any funding. We have a non-discrimination ordinance in place for the city, and we're asking that source of income be added to it. Okay,
so when that comes into play, and we're dealing with the type of city charter that we're set up with housing, especially the housing authority and some other entities, because housing is more vast than private housing. So what I'm asking is, you're asking City Council for money to allocate one thing, and I do agree with that. But the complaint issue, you're dealing with a charter issue. And so that's a totally separate vote. And for me, and I don't know what it feels like for other people who hear that. I've talked to other folks in the community, and they're very scared to be able to do that because it encompasses a lot of pushback, and it deals with their own lives because it deals with how they are able to acquiesce housing as well. Does that make sense?
No. I'm so sorry, Dolores. Because we're not asking for funding, we're just asking for a status to a protection, the ability to protect a class of people who have alternative ways of paying, and in that protection, asking for a vehicle for people to say, "Hey, I think this has happened to me," and I'm not sure.
Are these complaints going to be anonymous, or you have to put a name on them?
Oh, that's a great question. I think that could be determined by City Council.
And we're putting a recommendation forth that question doesn't answer for even the people who recommended it, nevertheless for City Council. So that's what I'm asking. Like, is this a great for me? That's why I think it should be broken up into two votes. I just want to say I would like to make a friendly amendment to this proclamation. I really would, because I think these are two separate issues, and I think it has different impacts when you put them forth, and the way that the document is written going to city council. Does that
Yes, that does. But I'm curious as to how you would split up the recommendation.
I would put it before I would split the recommendation up, one for budget and one for the complaint issue, because the budget is one thing. That's city council. That's what city council deals with. They deal with the budget. However, the complaint issue part of it, that has personal impacts upon folks who are on waiting lists. That has personal impacts on people that our own HRCA cannot do, as we heard from Mr. Troy, but the state can. But do you understand what I'm trying to say to you?
Oh, yes, I do. And, you know, Crystal and I talked a lot about that there's a lot of fear in the community that if they file a complaint, they'll never find another place to have a house again. But there's not an element to the budget involved. It's just discussing about how people list on their housing applications that they plan to pay for their own rent.
And see, this is the thing. If we're dealing with an entity that we deal with here in Asheville as far as certain housing entities, and we're dealing with also nonprofits as well that give access to monies to people for housing. I'm trying to figure out, for the people who have to depend on public housing that will come with those complaints, how will that impact them?
Ideally, it'll give them, ideally it'll give them a vehicle to bring attention to unfair renters, so that they would be able to. It takes time, of course. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. It takes big bold steps, you know, for people to initiate that. Does anyone else on housing want to add anything else to try to help out?
I believe Commissioner Harold had his hand up, and then Commissioner Noyes Espinosa after Commissioner Harold.
Yes, the way I understood it, and I read quite a few of them, landlords are not renting to people because of where their money is coming from. And that is not right. If a person has a voucher, let them use that voucher. Landlords are saying, you got a voucher, I don't want your money. You got, what was the other thing? You got child support.
Child support means you have children. We don't want you and your kids here.
No, we don't want that. That's not right. I'm all for it.
I appreciate your support, Harvey. I really do. We did have quite a bit of public comment. At what point do we bring in the public comment on this issue?
Hold on, please. Commissioner Noyes Espinosa has their hand up.
Yeah, hi, thank you. This is Commissioner Noyes Espinosa. I also wanted to just give my support and hopefully clarify a little bit too, as somebody who has worked with agencies who offer rental assistance. There are a lot of problematic landlords who will discriminate based on where rental payment is coming from. And it's really unfortunate because there is no check on that in this town. And unfortunately, they're able to do that because there's such a high demand for housing. So they've got people in line. They can bump people down on their priority list who have vouchers and just take people from out of town, take people who make more money and just put them first in line because they can. I really do like Dolores's point about how will this affect people who file for a complaint. Maybe some kind of way to make it anonymous so that their names are not told to the landlords when they do make a complaint. But I do feel confident that if we can work together to make sure that the complaints are like streamlined and are working well, that these problematic landlords will have attention brought to them. But yeah, the anonymity, I think, would be a good idea to protect the people making the complaints.
very good points, commissioners. I wanted to ask Brad before we connect with you, Commissioner Venable. How would we delineate between public housing and affordable housing and specific for this recommendation? Because public housing is more of a state. It relates to more state, but while we're dealing with private landlords who own buildings, who own whole blocks, who have come in and have taken over Asheville as of recent, and now are discriminating against people, locals and things like that. So could you please give a synopsis or brief synopsis about what that looks like from, between public housing and private entities that are taking advantage of vulnerable communities?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. This is a complex issue, and it's certainly one that you are beginning to see come to the forefront in multiple communities. As was mentioned previously, the city of Charlotte has recently taken action on this. I think perhaps the most beneficial answer that I can give you to your question is to say that there are some legal issues here, which I think it would be important for this particular commission to be aware of. The Non-Discrimination Ordinance that we're really talking about, which potentially where this might live, came out of a piece of state legislation that was House Bill 142. And House Bill 142 replaced the infamous HB2, which restricted all of these things. When House Bill 142 came into being, it also restricted a lot of local government's ability to take action on some of the things that we now take action on, because it had a sunset period, which means after a certain date, the state no longer had prohibitions on what local governments could do. But that opened up two doors. It opened up the door to regulate locally public accommodations and private employment. And that is exactly what our NDO ordinance was designed to do, as well as the NDOs across the state. And when that was being drafted, and I was part of that, there was a lot of discussion about whether or not housing discrimination could be included. And the consensus that the attorneys working on this came to was that we probably did not have any local authority, given the language in HB 142, to deal with housing discrimination. And there's a second reason for that. In North Carolina law, anytime the state regulates an area at the state level, it is the same as saying that local governments are not allowed to regulate in that unless they tell you specifically that you can. And in North Carolina, we have what's called the North Carolina Fair Housing Act. This is in Chapter 41A of our general statutes. And this essentially lays out where the state has regulated fair housing. They define what classes are protected, what the rights of those individuals are. And what that means to us as local governments is when you combine what's in and what's not in House Bill 42 and what is in Chapter 41A of the State Fair Housing Act, it tells us as local governments that we're probably not allowed to enact our own local schemes regarding fair housing. And that would include discrimination. Now, as you also mentioned, unfortunately, right now, source of income is not listed at the state level as one of those protected classes. But in order to amend that, you would need the state legislature to amend that statute to include that new class. Now, I'm telling you all this because this is the bad part. Here's the good part, and this follows along with what Charlotte just did. I do think there are some things that we can do, but I do believe it's probably short of some of the things that we would like to be able to do. What Charlotte did might be a very good model for Asheville, and that is essentially that they didn't simply add source of income as a new class of protected under their ordinance, a new protected class under their ordinance. What they did was say that they were going to add that in situations where the city was subsidizing the construction of new housing. That's going to come almost entirely for affordable housing situations. And this is something that the city, I believe, might be very interested in doing. And in fact, we already do it to a certain degree. In fact, when we give out housing trust fund loans, we currently require all of the recipients of housing trust fund loans to not discriminate, among other things, based upon the source of income. And we specifically call out housing choice vouchers as an option for that. So what I might suggest to this commission, and I think your motion is still perfectly fine, is that perhaps one of the things that you can do here is ask the city council to utilize our housing subsidy programs. And that's the housing trust fund. That's our land use incentive grants, other types of grants, to say that in those situations, no one's going to get money from us unless this is in your contract, that you will not discriminate, not only based on some of the other things already in the law, but also on source of income. Now, certainly this is just my advice, and this commission is absolutely free to put forth whatever recommendation that you want. But I always think it's important that I tell you the same things that I will tell the city council when they get your recommendations about what the legal limitations are out there. So I know I've thrown a lot at you here, but I really believe the most important aspects of this are the following. Number one, I think that it's very unlikely that we can regulate fair housing discrimination at the local level across the board. I've tried to highlight some of the reasons for that, but I think that is a very difficult thing for any local government to do right now. What I do think we can do, however, is utilize the programs that we currently have to incentivize the development of affordable housing to ensure that you do not get local money for, and this is becoming a lot of housing that we're developing, without a promise and a contractual guarantee that, among other protected classes, that source of income is included. And there's definitely work we can do there to improve that protected class within that subset of housing. So I know I've thrown a lot at you, but I hope that made some sense.
Thank you for that, and I appreciate a little bit of the backstory of how we got here from HB2 of all things, and that was the intention of leaving the recommendation as broad and letting the city council get into the weeds of anonymity versus new housing versus existing and things like that, but just saying this is a need that we're seeing or are seeing precedent, and we as a commission want to recommend that go forward.
Thank you, Brad. That was a really amazing. Just get to the nuts and bolts of it. Commissioner Venable, and I would like to ask Councilwoman Roney, what a question as well. Commissioner Venable.
So this again is another reason why I wanted to break this vote up. And I'm going to probably put this to a recommendation to the board before we send this recommendation, or pull the recommendation until we can have a further discussion. Because this is a very loaded subject when you put it all together. It is very loaded and impacts a lot of people. It is not to dismiss the great work that people have done with this, but what it's saying is for me and other people whom are impacted in different ways than other folks are. Because it doesn't say part of the income. So if you say, for instance, let me ask a question. And this is one of the questions I didn't see answered. So if you're a trust fund recipient, however, your trust fund is not given to you within a bank account, but you are a trust fund baby. And I don't know if people know what but we all know what trust fund babies are. So a trust fund baby comes here and tries to get on affordable housing. And because they have other issues, they do have money that comes to them, but they don't report it because nobody gives it to them in a bank account, or it's not part of a salary or any type of other instance. That's going to also be considered a part of income. And these are issues that people have asked me, like, so what does this mean? And I don't know how to answer that question. So that's part of some of the reason, and that's why I want this broken up into two parts. because you have a budget part that's one, which is a great idea. But then the complaint part is another from folks who don't necessarily meet those requirements per se. I mean, some people would say, what about drug dealers? Can you take their income? You know what I'm saying? Like if you're going to state the income, and a lot of people are saying they get income from other places that are not necessarily what's considered tangible incomes. And this is part of this recommendation. So that's why it's a two-part. And then you have the flashback, because if you have to make a complaint, it's kind of like you live in these entities, you live in a landlord, and so your complaint, and they can read anything, because most things that go to boards have to be it's public record. And when something's public record, you can't be anonymous. You have to give a state a name and some other things. So it's a FOIA request, basically. So those are the issues. And that's what I was trying to ask Brad. Are those complaints going to be part of a FOIA issue?
Just to answer that, I would say that, yeah, any complaints that came in would probably be subject to public records request. That is the case right now for any requests that come in for complaints regarding other non-discrimination ordinance issues. And that's simply based on state law. There's really no protection for those things. So we do get requests for those complaints from time to time.
I do know that there's a program in New York. I just read about it today. It's an online program that talks about complaints from different housing owners, private housing owners, not public housing, because that's a whole different thing, but private housing owners, to give people a heads up as to what they might be moving into. Councilwoman Roney, how would this be, this recommendation, how can this be brought to, because I heard Commissioner Chandler mention this is a recommendation that is an invitation to inspire action with City Council. And so would something like this be best suited to meet with each City Council member to go over this and get perspective, and then come back to the commission with a clear, backed up by City Council with legal language, so that we can actually recommend it back to City Council in a way that best reflects the policy and procedure of the City of Asheville regarding affordable housing?
That could be a strategy. Absolutely, you could ask, we could recommend to council a broad support for source of income, and then ask to review the details once they're fleshed out by council and staff, if a majority of council directs staff to do so. Just a couple points here: that source of income discrimination is when a tenant is denied access to leasing rental property based on the legal form of income they use to pay the rent. Also, there are a couple examples for statewide. Virginia House Bill 6 was effective July 1st, 2020. They included source of income and funds along with LGBTQ protections, gender identity, veteran status. Additionally, North Carolina House Bill 1114 was filed in May of 2022. Its last action was in committee. So there is a benefit to staying broad as we move forward towards what could be part of a statewide action. Council may also, in getting into the weeds, if they choose to do so with staff, get into the weeds on not going above and beyond the state or federal guidelines. When members of the housing work group, and I have supported their work, we're looking for specific protections that aren't currently on the books. This is one that could help you to meet your goals in making a recommendation. I'm not sure that, given the number of goals that you have to meet this year, if getting into the weeds is desired by this committee. I will say that the first time I heard this recommendation came from members of residence councils who've been working for this over 8 years. And so they brought it to my attention during the non-discrimination ordinance drafting, asking us not to forget it. So this has been advocated for from members of the community who use subsidies to pay for their rent and who have been discriminated against. So you can certainly get into the weeds and ask to bring this back to another meeting. You could also use the strategy of keeping it broad and making a recommendation that council do something about this known discrimination in our community.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Great information with that. 8 years is a long time to be advocating for a source of income. So thank you for bringing that in. Commissioner Venable.
Hi, my question is actually for Councilwoman Romney after her last comment. So you said that a lot of the information that you had has came from the residence councils. And which residence councils are those per se?
They've been members of the residence council over the years. In this situation, I would say that it is part of a narrative data collection and better understanding what housing discrimination looks like in our community. If you wanted to get into the details for a future recommendation or to revisit a staff recommendation or draft, this would be a great opportunity to do, as Troy mentioned earlier, is to gather a group of residents together to get into those details, which would be a great opportunity to inform the public on what source of income is and what it means to our community if we do something about this discrimination that is happening.
Councilwoman Roney, I was wondering, when you say residence council, are you talking about the residence councils for the Housing Authority of the City of Asheville? Are those the residence councils? Because that's the residence councils that people are very familiar with in language and terminology. So are you talking about residence councils or are you talking about neighborhood associations?
There has been broad public input on this over the years from a number of groups, including residence councils, neighborhood associations, those with Section 8 vouchers. It is a regular topic in housing. The conversation about the verbiage source of income is new to me since our non-discrimination ordinance, but it is not unfamiliar to members of the community who've been doing this work for a long time. The way that it most often comes up in conversation and public meetings is when we are subsidizing affordable housing. And you'll hear it said something along the lines of this development is providing a certain area median income of housing. And for example, a percentage of those will accept vouchers, which means that the remaining units will not be accepting vouchers, which are units that are subsidized by our local funds, but are discriminating against those with subsidies.
When you say what you're saying, and I get what you're saying somewhat, but at the same time, I'm kind of confused. When you say residence councils, are you speaking upon residence councils within the housing authority, or are you speaking upon independent resident councils within neighborhoods? I'm kind of confused.
I certainly wouldn't speak. Sure, I'll be very specific. I wouldn't pretend to speak for any member of a residence council, but I have heard comment from residence councils on this matter.
Can you be more specific as to which ones and where those entities came from?
Members of housing authority neighborhoods have done public outreach for more than at least the past couple of years on this matter.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Roney and Councilwoman Romney. That's what I was really trying to, because if we don't clear the elephant out of the room, and if I don't know what you're talking about, I can't, and no one else can really know what's going on. And I really do appreciate you for saying that. It does change a lot of situations, and I think it does change how people think about things, because these situations, as you said, have been going on for years. And so when we start talking about things that have been systemic, and we're talking about a vote on something, and it's two different layers of it, that's the two different layers I was talking about. Because
two specific examples I can give of stories that I have heard are members of the community who live in subsidized housing that are seeking other options to use their vouchers or subsidy for. And as soon as the landlord finds out that they will be using a subsidy, are declined from the ability to sign a lease.
So that's kind of like RAD or Section 8. You're not talking about public housing and how this impacts people that have to do public housing first before you get into another entity.
I'm sure there are many examples of the same, but I'm not able to speak on.
Commissioner Venable, we're starting to go into the weeds.
Well, these are really important. Those are really important conversations.
It is really important, but we are in a time. We do have time. We do have time constraints for this meeting, and so we can either table this. We can table this recommendation and discuss it deeper in the next meeting, or we can go and do a roll call vote. Commissioner Chandler, what would you like to do concerning the new revelations that have come up in this discussion?
I definitely, based on the public support that we have and the support on the commission so far, I mean, I definitely feel like we could pass it as, but I would much rather have full input from the commission and commissioners to have it say what we want it to say. So perhaps we couch it into the next meeting and have a little bit more discussion about editing what we want the proposal to say.
All right, let's do that.
What do we do with the public comments for this evening?
Brenda?
What was the question?
What do we do with public comments for this
evening? They were shared with each of you. You just need to read them. Take those into consideration. We don't read them in the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
All right, moving on. So we are shelving this particular recommendation to next meeting, and we will discuss it further in the next meeting. Moving on to community announcements. Are there any community announcements that would like to be shared with our community tonight? Commissioner Harold.
Yes, I would like to say in 15 days, the Goombay Fest will be here in Asheville. It's turning 42 years old in 2022. And this promises to be the biggest Caribbean African festival that Asheville has ever seen. And I would also like to invite my fellow commissioners to come out. As in the past, I've always invited you to the Peace Gardens. Commissioner Debelo invited me to the YMI. She invited the commission to the YMI, and I invited the commission to the Peace Gardens. And it's always a way for us to get closer as a commission as well, and being out in public. And it's just a great thing, and that way we're not we're not looking at each other on a screen. We're necessarily looking at each other face to face. And if we get out and get out of our comfort zones, so to speak, and and enjoy each other out publicly, which we're supposed to do. But as I said, the event's in 15 days. But that's all I had to say on that today.
Thank you, Commissioner Harold. Commissioner Venable, community announcements?
Yes, so there's going to be a community hiring event Saturday, August the 27th, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Brown Temple, CME Church, 32 Pfeiffer Street, Asheville, North Carolina. Meet employers hiring for roles paying $18 an hour or more. All of these are ban-the-box employers. These are people who will hire felons and people with past criminal records. There are several employers. It's free and open to the public. Kids and families are welcome. They will be serving ice cream, on the spot interviewing and hiring. This is given by Inclusive Hiring Partners, Ingalls Wings Community Development Corporation, and also the Economic Development Coalition of Asheville and Buncombe County. And please also know that these are also Buncombe County, the city of Asheville, and every type of employer that you can think of, because part of being inclusive in our city is making sure folks make the money they need to be able to sit here, live, work, thrive. So I'm very proud to announce this community hiring event and look forward to more hiring events throughout the city of Asheville. But this is on Saturday, August the 27th from 11 a.m. to 3 at Brown Temple CME Church, and that is at 32 Pfeiffer Street, Asheville, North Carolina. And I will try to get flyers sent also to the board. Thank you so much for everything, folks.
Thank you, Commissioner Venable. Are there any further community announcements? Moving on to live public comment. We've received 15 public comments ahead of the meeting, and they can be found in the meeting materials on the Hrca webpage of the city's website. Are there any public comments wishing to speak in the queue at the moment?
You have no live callers.
Thank you very much, Brenda. Moving on to future agenda items, training and city mandated equity and inclusion process, which is a future staff presentation. Accountability pipeline for complaints process for City of Asheville for resident complaints, future staff presentation. We went over a little bit of that tonight. Thank you, Brad. Creation of volunteer membership mentorship program to support returning citizens. It's also a future staff presentation. Public safety is a future staff presentation, fair and equitable housing, planning committee work, and then environmental and climate concerns, which is also a future staff presentation. We are now at the time of adjournment. If there is no other business, we will adjourn. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much for tuning in. Keep it real, Asheville. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all of your service. And we look forward to seeing you next month. Thank you, Brenda. Thank you, Elena. Thank you, Brad. Thank you, commissioners. Take it easy, be kind to yourselves, and keep it real. All right, see you soon.